Human pilot discovers hidden planet, exiled alien monarch offers herself for company. Eli Morgan leaned forward in the battered pilot's seat of the Starhawk, every movement betraying the ease of a man with thousands of hours behind the controls. The cockpit glowed in dim indigo, awash with shifting holographic readouts that cast phantom reflections across Eli's sharp features. His eyes narrowed as he caught sight of a sudden jagged spike on the sensor array. A pulse, irregular and insistent, unlike anything he'd seen in this sector. "Nova, are you picking up that spike?" he called, fingers drumming on the edge of the console. Nova's voice, calm and precise, resonated from the ceiling panels. "Confirmed. Unidentified energy anomaly detected. Standard protocol. Maintain distance and notify Astral Survey Command." Eli's mouth twitched in a lopsided grin. Curiosity, always his guiding star, lit a fire behind his eyes. "Override protocol. Set a course for the source." A pause, faintly laced with digital disapproval. "Warning. This region is flagged as off-limits by celestial authority." He glanced sidelong at the viewport. Nothing but the velvet blackness of interstellar void, punctuated by distant starlight. "There's nothing but empty space out here." "Access restricted by order of the authority," Nova insisted. "Approach is not advised." Eli's grin broadened, defiance glinting in his gaze. "Since when do I ever listen?" "Take us in, slow and steady." The Starhawk responded with a subtle hum, thrusters flaring as the ship angled toward the anomaly. Holograms flickered, displaying data in erratic bursts. Gravitational readings surged and dropped, reality itself seeming to warp at the edge of the unseen. Nova's tone sharpened. "Distortion field detected. Possible cloaking mechanism. Composition unknown without further analysis." Eli's hands danced over the controls, steady and sure. "Can we get through?" "Risk to hull integrity is significant. Retreat is recommended." He leaned in, eyes shining with reckless anticipation. "Let's see what's behind the curtain." As Eli primed the shields, a tremor ran through the ship. The hull vibrated, the cockpit shuddered, an unseen force pressing in from all sides. Lights flickered, alarms wailed, and for a split second the world dissolved into chaos. Then, as suddenly as it began, silence fell. The panels steadied, the view outside clearing. Beyond the Starhawk's bow, a vision unfolded. A system the charts never knew, dominated by a lush planet wreathed in swirling clouds. Its surface shimmered with improbable colors, teal and emerald forests, silver rivers gleaming in the light of an unregistered golden sun. Eli released a long, slow breath. "Nova, are we still in the Orion sweep?" "Affirmative," the AI replied after a beat. "However, this system is absent from all charts." Eli's eyes danced across the readouts. There, buried in the atmospheric haze, clusters of energy signatures, erratic but unmistakably artificial. And deeper, woven through the biosphere, life. Advanced, unfamiliar, vibrant. He couldn't help himself. "Initiate landing sequence." The Starhawk slipped through the atmosphere, guided by Nova's steady hand. Eli watched as the cockpit windows filled with impossible vistas, towering, spiraling trees of indigo and violet, bioluminescent vines draping like starfire. The vessel settled softly in a grove, landing gear sinking into moss that glowed faintly beneath the hull. Eli rose from his seat, pausing only to grab his scanner and holster his sidearm. The airlock cycled open with a hiss. Warm, fragrant air flooded in, rich with scents he could not name, thick with humidity. Every breath tingled with the promise of discovery. He stepped out, boots sinking into the spongy earth. The forest seemed to breathe around him, leaves trembling in silent welcome. His scanner beeped, guiding him through clusters of towering flora, past crystalline blooms that refracted sunlight in kaleidoscopic patterns. Somewhere ahead, a beacon pulsed, an energy signature, radiant and alive. Eli pushed through a curtain of silver-leaved vines and froze. Before him rose a structure that defied simple description. Its surface was both metal and crystal, curving in elegant arcs, faceted with shifting colors. It was at once alien and beautiful, a testament to minds and hands unlike any he had known. At its entrance stood a woman, alien yet striking. Her skin shimmered from violet to deep blue, as though woven from midnight and starlight. She was tall and statuesque, clad in ceremonial armor that glinted with inlaid silver, draped in flowing robes of royal indigo. Her eyes were endless, deep and void dark, holding the weight of 1,000 secrets. Their eyes met, and for a moment the world fell away. Just Eli and this impossible, breathtaking stranger at the threshold of a new and unknown destiny. Eli's hand hovered near his sidearm, old instincts pricking at the edges of caution, but something in the alien woman's bearing, regal, unafraid, made him lower it. She stepped forward, light sliding off her iridescent skin, her presence both commanding and strangely gentle. "I expected someone would stumble upon my exile eventually," she said. Her voice was melodic, resonant, and there was a faint curve to her lips, almost a smile. Eli blinked, surprise flickering across his face. "You understand me?" Her smile widened, revealing a hint of warmth beneath the royal composure. "I've learned many tongues. Yours has always intrigued me." He found himself searching her eyes, endless and dark as the void between stars. "Who are you?" "I am Seren, once ruler of the Nixian Dominion. This world is my sentence." Eli took a breath, steadying himself. The implications of her words rang through his mind. Ruler, dominion, sentence. "You're imprisoned here?" Seren laughed, crystalline and clear, the sound echoing through the alien grove. "A gilded exile, but exile all the same. And you are?" "Eli Morgan, Terran Reconnaissance," he replied, letting his guard down another notch. Seren circled him with feline grace, her gaze sharp and assessing. "Your ship bears the scars of the barrier. Nothing passes through unharmed. Isolation was part of my punishment." Eli's curiosity burned brighter. "Why were you banished?" She stopped before him, head held high, her voice quiet but firm. "For mercy. I refused to destroy a young civilization my council deemed a threat." Understanding dawned in Eli's eyes, slow and heavy. "Earth." Seren nodded, the gesture almost reverent. "Come. There's little to fear here except solitude. Let me show you." She beckoned, and Eli followed her beneath the crystalline archway. The structure's interior was a wonder, a seamless blend of advanced technology and comfort. Walls of translucent metal pulsed with soft light, shifting through colors as if alive. In the corner, 2 enormous guardian beasts rested, their forms shifting like living shadows, obsidian tendrils weaving through the air to form towering silhouettes. Their eyes, 6 each, glimmered with intelligence, following Eli's every movement but making no sound. "My only companions," Seren said, gesturing to them with a tilt of her chin. "Sent by my brother to remind me that even in isolation, I am watched." Eli studied the creatures, equal parts fascinated and wary. "What happens now?" Seren moved closer, her presence magnetic. The scent of her, something like midnight rain and unfamiliar flowers, filled the space between them. "Let me be your guide while you're here. In return, share with me the world I spared." She extended a luminous hand, fingers long and elegant, tipped with silver. Eli hesitated only a moment before taking it. Her skin was warm, alive with a gentle energy that sent a shiver up his arm. "Deal," he said, voice rough with wonder. Serene's eyes sparkled. "Words are only the beginning. I want to know what makes your kind endure. She led him into a communal space at the heart of the structure. The room was shaped by gentle curves, filled with low, comfortable seating and intricate murals that glowed with internal light. At one end stood a table of living crystal, shifting patterns moving beneath its surface. Seren moved with effortless elegance, producing a decanter of iridescent liquid that shimmered with every color Eli could name, and several he could not. She poured 2 cups, the liquid swirling like captured starlight. The Nixian ideal was always rigidity. Your people's adaptability made me question everything. Eli accepted the cup, the surface cool against his palm. He watched her, caught between awe and curiosity. Adaptability is all we have. The universe doesn't care if we survive or not. Seren raised her glass, the light within it reflecting in her eyes. To survival, then. They toasted, and Eli took a cautious sip. The drink was unexpectedly smooth, a cascade of flavors blooming across his tongue. Sweet, sharp, electric. He exhaled, a laugh escaping him. You didn't mention the side effects. Seren's laughter joined his, richer now. Nixian spirits are said to reveal hidden truths. As they drank, the space between them filled with easy conversation, Eli describing Earth's seas and storms, Seren recounting tales of the Nixian court, its endless ceremonies and silent betrayals. She listened intently, hunger in her eyes not for power, but for connection. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them. A low, guttural rumble that made the walls quiver. The guardian beasts rose, shifting to form a barrier between their mistress and the exterior. Seren set her glass down, her expression sharpening. Corrosive storm incoming. We must seal the doors. Without waiting for a reply, she moved to the entryway, Eli close behind. The wind outside had grown vicious, howling through the grove and tearing at the crystalline structure. Together, they struggled to pull the heavy door closed, the air growing acrid as the first drops of acidic rain struck the threshold with a hissing sizzle. A stray gust lashed through the gap, spraying Seren's arm with burning droplets. She flinched, a silent grimace twisting her features, but did not cry out. Eli, acting on instinct, grabbed her wrist and yanked her inside. The doors slammed shut, sealing them in a hush broken only by the rising scream of the storm outside. He knelt beside her, grabbing a cloth from his belt and pressing it gently to the raw, reddened skin. Hold still, he murmured, scanning the wound with his handheld device. The acid had eaten through the upper layer, but not deep, a lucky escape. Seren watched him, her expression unreadable. Compassion is rare where I come from. Perhaps that's why I find you so fascinating. He looked up, surprised by the softness in her voice. Where I come from, helping each other is how we survive. Sometimes it's all we have. She held his gaze, the storm's shriek muted by the thick walls, the flickering light casting shadows across her angular features. For a moment, nothing else existed but the quiet closeness between them. Serene's fingers brushed his, gratitude and something deeper flickering in her endless eyes. Maybe that's what I envied most, the refusal to surrender to loneliness. Eli smiled, tentative and sincere. It's easier to fight when you're not alone. The guardian beasts curled protectively nearby, their forms settling into statuesque stillness as the storm battered the world outside. Eli finished tending her arm, his touch gentle, and Seren did not pull away. Instead, she studied him with renewed intensity, as though seeing him for the first time. Your people have 1,000 words for hope, she mused quietly. On Nixia, we were taught to extinguish such things. He met her gaze, warmth blooming between them in the hush of the sealed sanctuary. Maybe you just needed someone to remind you. The acidic rain hammered the roof, the sound relentless. Yet inside, something softer had taken root. Trust, tentative and fragile, but real. Serene's hand found Eli's again, their fingers interlacing. The storm howled on, but within those crystalline walls, a new beginning flickered to life, fragile and luminous as hope itself. Days passed in a seamless flow of discovery and ritual. Eli woke each morning to the gentle hum of Seren's alien sanctuary, the crystalline walls pulsing with colors he'd come to recognize as Nixian dawn. The storm had faded, leaving behind an air thick with possibility. Their lives intertwined in unexpected ways. Meals shared across a table of living crystal, stories exchanged late into the night, laughter echoing in the shadows. One evening, Seren sat opposite him, her posture elegant as always, her eyes fixed on the tablet Eli had offered. The English script glowed against her indigo skin, the glyphs reflected in her endless gaze. She traced a finger over the letters, then looked up, curiosity sharpening her features. "Your letters remind me of our oldest glyphs," she said, her voice soft with wonder. Eli leaned in, amusement tugging at his lips. Coincidence or something deeper? Seren tilted her head, considering. She set the tablet aside and produced a thin sheet of silvery material. With a flick of her wrist, symbols appeared, Nixian script, alive and shifting, each mark shimmering as though it held breath in memory. The letters twisted in patterns that seemed to pulse with hidden meaning. "On Nixia, writing is alive," she explained, the symbols reflecting in her eyes. "Each word remembers every time it's spoken." Eli watched, mesmerized. "So every message is a conversation through time." "Exactly. Our ancestors believed written words shaped the future." She smiled, and for a moment the distance between their worlds felt impossibly small. They dined together in the warmth of the communal chamber, the glow from the walls bathing them in shifting hues. The shadow beasts, Umbra and Nilo, lounged at the edge of the light, silent and watchful. Eli found their presence oddly comforting. When they blinked, their eyes flickered with starlight. He raised his glass in a quiet salute. "You've gone to great lengths." Seren regarded him over the rim of her cup, a glint of pride in her expression. "7 cycles to study humanity. But books are nothing compared to experience." Eli set his glass down, the pause between them heavy with something unsaid. The silence stretched, charged with tension that neither wanted to break. Seren's gaze lingered on him, thoughtful and intense. He stood abruptly, needing space, his heart thudding in his chest. "I should check the ship." Seren nodded, masking her disappointment behind a serene mask. Eli slipped out into the humid night, boots sinking into moss that glimmered in the starlight. The grove was quiet except for the low hum of the Starhawk's repair drones, hard at work patching the hull. Inside the cockpit, Eli toggled the comms. "Nova, status report." Nova's voice crackled through the speaker, cool and precise. "Partial hull repairs complete. External barrier remains active, but signal disruptions indicate possible gaps. Communication with Astral Survey Command, intermittent at best." Eli frowned, mind working through the implications. "Is the barrier weakening?" "Unknown. Anomaly patterns remain unpredictable." He killed the comms and stepped back, tension simmering. Something about Seren's evasiveness gnawed at him. He circled the ship, eyes scanning the undergrowth, then wandered deeper into the alien structure. The corridors were quiet, suffused with the low thrum of Nixian technology. He moved with care, letting instinct guide him. At the far end of an unmarked hallway, a faint glow caught his eye. A hidden seam in the wall, just wide enough for a determined hand. Eli pressed it, and the panel slid aside with a whisper. Inside, the air was cool and still. Alien consoles lined the walls, screens flickering with Nixian script. Holographic displays hovered in midair, awash with static. Eli moved closer, translating what he could with his scanner. Message logs, communications, directives, status reports. He froze as a star chart materialized before him, its constellations unfamiliar save for one, Earth, marked in brilliant crimson, a target surrounded by tactical notations. His breath caught. The threat never ended, he whispered, the words barely more than a sigh. A quiet rustle behind him. Serin's silhouette filled the doorway, regal and enigmatic. No, she said softly. Only postponed. Eli straightened, anger mingling with betrayal. You weren't honest. Umbra and Nilo melted from the shadows, taking their place at Seren's side. Their presence was a warning, but Seren's face was open, her eyes searching his. I never claimed the Dominion abandoned invasion, she replied, her voice level. I said I opposed it. Eli glanced at the chart, the crimson circle burning in his vision. Earth is still in their sights. She stepped forward, her hands raised in peace. The Council refused to listen. They see your kind as a resource, not as equals. Seren swept her hand over a console and the display shifted. Twin strands of DNA appeared. One Nixian, one human. The Nixian strand glowed with flawless precision, every segment ordered and identical. The human strand pulsed, wild and chaotic, teeming with possibility. Centuries ago, a plague nearly ended us, Seren said, voice taut with memory. Our perfection is our weakness, no diversity, no resilience. Human genes could save us. Eli felt his anger harden. So your people want to use us, harvest what makes us strong. The Council does. Seren's voice trembled, the first crack in her composure. I argued for alliance, that's why I'm here. He stepped closer, the air charged. You needed a Terran to prove we'd cooperate. I needed someone willing to understand, she replied, desperate hope in her eyes. If I can prove humans would willingly help, perhaps the invasion can be stopped. I need you, Eli Morgan. My people need you. Umbra and Nilo watched in silence, their forms a barrier and a witness. Seren's hand hovered inches from his, luminous and trembling. Eli met her gaze, the weight of cosmic fate pressing down. How do I know this isn't another manipulation? She shook her head, her eyes glistening with emotion. Because I chose exile. I chose to spare your world. And I choose you now, not as a means to an end, but as the only hope we both have. They stood close, hands nearly touching, the gulf between their worlds shrinking with every breath. The shadows flickered, the console's glow reflecting in their eyes. Eli could feel the stakes shift, no longer just political, no longer just survival, but something deeply personal, raw with possibility. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence crackled with all the words unspoken, all the futures unwritten. Seren's voice was barely more than a whisper. Will you help me, Eli? He hesitated, every instinct warring with the pull in his chest. He saw the truth in her eyes, the desperation, the hope, the need for redemption that mirrored his own. The fate of two worlds hung in the balance, and somehow the choice felt both impossibly vast and intimately simple. They worked side by side in the blue-lit heart of Seren's crystalline sanctuary, urgency threading every glance and gesture. Eli hunched over the Starhawk's battered comms array, tools scattered across the floor, while Seren hovered nearby, her long fingers flying across a holographic interface. Nova's voice crackled from Eli's wrist console, the AI's tone clipped and focused. Energy distortion remains stable, Nova reported. Barrier pulse intervals decreasing, transmission window possible in 4.1 hours. Eli wiped sweat from his brow. That's not long, Nova. How big a window? Not enough to escape, Seren answered, already anticipating the question. But perhaps enough for a message. They exchanged a look, half hope, half desperation. For days, they had mapped the anomaly's rhythm, seeking any pattern or flaw. Every Nixian system hummed with hidden logic, but Seren's insights, paired with Nova's relentless calculations, teased apart the barrier's secrets. With practiced efficiency, they assembled a makeshift transmitter from salvaged Starhawk components and Nixian crystals. Eli spliced wires and calibrated frequencies, while Seren embedded a data crystal etched with her sigil, proof of her identity and plea. All the while, Umbra and Nilo kept silent vigil, their obsidian forms flickering at the threshold. When the transmitter was ready, Seren beckoned Eli deeper into the structure. The corridors spiraled downward, narrowing until they opened into a sanctum unlike any other. Blue light flooded the chamber, emanating from a shimmering pool at its center. The air vibrated with a low, harmonic resonance, thick with energy and memory. Seren's voice grew soft, reverent. "This is the heart of my exile, a place reserved for the communion of Nixian royals." Eli gazed at the pool, mesmerized by its shifting depths. "What does it do?" She approached the water, unlatching her ceremonial armor piece by piece. Each plate fell away, revealing more of her radiant skin. An ever-shifting tapestry of blues and violets, alive with subtle light. She was breathtaking, vulnerable and powerful in equal measure. "Nixian royals can attempt quantum communion," she explained. "This chamber amplifies the effect. With the right bond, I might breach the barrier, if only for a moment." Eli's heart pounded, the gravity of her words sinking in. "What kind of bond?" She stood before him, her eyes infinite and shining. "An ancient ritual, a temporary neural link, forged through touch and trust. It will be intimate. But it is the only way." She stepped closer, her glowing hand reaching for his face. Her touch traced his jaw, a feather-light caress that sent energy racing beneath his skin. Their breath mingled, the chamber's light deepening around them. Eli swallowed, voice barely a whisper. "This is more than just a plan to you." Seren's words brushed his ear, low and vulnerable. "It is now." They knelt at the edge of the pool, fingers intertwined. Saren spoke in a language older than memory, her words rippling through the water and the air. The chamber responded, a pulse of blue fire, heat and sensation enveloping them both. Their thoughts braided together, pasts and fears and hopes laid bare. Eli felt her pain, centuries of solitude, the sting of betrayal, the desperate hope for redemption. Seren glimpsed his memories, childhood storms on Earth, the ache of loss, the stubborn spark that had carried him across the stars. In that luminous moment, mind and body merged. They were two in one, boundaryless and whole. Seren's message flashed through the quantum ether, encoded in emotion and memory, carrying a plea and a warning to any who might listen. The chamber dimmed as the ritual ebbed, their hands still clasped, breathless and changed. 3 days blurred past in a dance of hope and anxiety. The Starhawk's hull healed beneath Nova's watchful algorithms, while Eli and Seren alternated between nervous anticipation and stolen, quiet moments, hands brushing, laughter echoing through empty halls. Umbra and Nilo prowled the perimeter, their vigilance unbroken. On the 3rd day, Nova's voice rang out, sharper than ever. "Unidentified vessel approaching, Nixian class, heavy shielding, advanced cloaking signature." Eli's pulse quickened. He joined Seren at the viewport, gazing out as a sleek, angular ship cut through the sky, golden and black, bristling with power. He murmured, "Heavy shielding. Seren, can we trust them?" Seren's expression was tense but hopeful. "Commander Varric served me faithfully for decades. If anyone is loyal, it's him." The ship touched down with silent precision. Its airlock cycled, and a tall Nixian strode forth, armor gleaming, face sharp with authority. Soldiers flanked him, weapons ready but eyes cautious. Eli tensed, instinctively stepping between Seren and the newcomers. Varric's gaze swept over the scene, cold and assessing. "Seren Nix," he declared, voice formal. "By order of the Dominion, you are to be remanded." Seren raised her chin, defiance shining in her eyes. Do not waste time with theater, Varric. I know you better than that. A long beat. Then Varric's posture softened, and a ghost of a smile flickered across his lips. He spoke in Nixian, rapid and low, words layered with meaning. Umbra and Nilo relaxed. Switching back to Eli's language, Varric bowed his head. We've maintained the ruse for as long as possible. My crew stands with you, my queen. Seren's relief was palpable. Her shoulders sagged, her breath caught in a tremor. Eli squeezed her hand, grounding her. She turned to him, gratitude shining in her gaze. Varric's tone grew urgent. We must leave at once. Patrols grow bolder. The Dominion suspects, but they do not yet know. This window will not last. Seren nodded, her resolve hardening. Then we go together. No more exile. No more hiding. Eli gripped her hand, letting the weight of everything pass between them. Fear, hope, longing. Umbra and Nilo fell in at their heels as they crossed the threshold, leaving the sanctuary behind. The party boarded Varric's ship, the engines thrumming with promise. As the golden vessel lifted from the grove and the planet fell away below, Eli and Seren stood side by side, destinies newly intertwined, racing toward an uncertain future, together. Alarms blared through the bridge of the Aurora, pulsing with a crimson urgency that painted every surface in a warning glow. Eli's heart slammed in his chest as he gripped the edge of the navigation console, eyes flicking between the streaming data and the starfield beyond the main viewport. The Dominion patrol ship loomed into view, sleek, predatory, its hull etched with glyphs of authority and power. Varric stood rigid at the command dais, his voice cool but edged with dread. Enforcer class. Captain Wren. Saren's eyes narrowed, her regal composure slipping into something sharper. He cannot be swayed. We must run. Eli's mind whirred. He flicked open the star charts, searching for options as the Enforcer's silhouette grew. Only one route offered any real hope: the Maelstrom Rift, a nebula notorious for devouring even the most advanced vessels. Nova, feed me all Rift data, Eli ordered, sweat beading at his brow. Nova's reply was calm, almost serene in the chaos. 15 viable routes, survival odds, 10 to 38%, depending on trajectory and anomaly variables. Varric's jaw tightened. No Dominion captain has survived passage in living memory. Eli's lips curled in a reckless grin. Let's make our own luck. He slid into the pilot's seat, fingers flying across the unfamiliar controls as he merged Terran intuition with Nixian technology. The Aurora groaned as Eli threw the thrusters to full, veering hard toward the swirling blue-black storm of the Maelstrom Rift. Rin's ship spun in pursuit, weapons charging, the gap between hunter and prey shrinking with every breath. The rift loomed, alive with writhing currents of plasma and flickers of impossible shadow. Static licked at the Aurora's shields, painting the windows with crawling fire. Eli's gut told him to trust the chaos. Where Nixian logic warned retreat, he saw a narrow thread of possibility. Nova, highlight density pockets and thermal vents, Eli commanded, route plotted. Suggest evasive action in 3, 2, 1. Eli jerked the yoke. The Aurora dove, slicing between two swirling cyclones. Rin's ship thundered after, sending arcs of energy sizzling across the void. The hull shuddered, alarms screeching as the Aurora was buffeted on all sides. Shadowy anomalies flickered at the periphery. Massive, half-seen shapes, older than memory, coiling through the nebulous heart. Varric shouted over the chaos. Shield integrity at 40%. Seren steadied herself at Eli's side, her hand finding his arm. Eli! He cut her off, eyes alight with wild certainty. Trust me. He saw it then. A plasma burst ahead, the only chance to lose Rin. Nova, on my mark, vent plasma from starboard. Nova's tone shifted, faintly incredulous. Calculated risk exceeds projected survivability. Do it. The Aurora twisted, plasma roaring from its flank in a blinding arc. Eli punched the engines, riding the expanding wave as it battered Rin's ship, disrupting the pursuing vessel's sensors and hurling it into the depths of the rift. For a heartbeat, everything was a blur, energy surging, alarms howling, the ship straining against the storm. Then, suddenly, silence. The aurora burst free of the nebula's grasp, battered but whole. The starfield beyond was calm and clear, the Dominion enforcer left spinning, powerless, far behind. Eli slumped back, every muscle trembling. He exhaled, laughter bubbling up from somewhere deep. We made it! Varric's eyes were wide, disbelief and respect mingling. That was impossible. Seren turned to Eli, awe and something warmer blazing in her gaze. She reached for him, her fingers lingering on his cheek. You continue to surprise me, Eli Morgan. He grinned, heart pounding. I'll take that as a compliment. Seren shook her head, the hint of a smile curving her lips. It's more than that. Before he could answer, she pulled him close, her lips finding his in a kiss that was both gratitude and promise, urgent, fierce, and unexpectedly tender. The moment lingered between them, bright as the stars. The aurora raced on, the battered ship a lifeline between two worlds. Days later, they dropped into orbit above the Nixian homeworld. Eli stared out the viewport, breath caught at the sight. Vast crystalline cities rose from fields of sapphire and silver, towers spiraling toward a sky as blue as midnight. The planet shimmered, alive with impossible architecture and the pulse of ancient power. Seren stood tall, donning her ceremonial regalia once more, armor that gleamed with a shifting spectrum, flowing robes trailing behind her. Her bearing was regal, her resolve unbreakable. They landed at a secret enclave, hidden beneath a crystalline archway. Allies waited in the shadows, figures cloaked in the colors of dissent, hope flickering in their eyes as Seren stepped from the ramp, Eli at her side. A woman approached, her features marked by wisdom and strength. She bowed her head to Seren. Maela, first of the hidden, the council plans to strike Earth in 12 days. Seren's jaw set, urgency sharpening every line of her face. We must act now, prepare the assembly. Varric and Maela exchanged a look of agreement. Eli felt the weight of the moment, Earth's fate, and perhaps the fate of the Nixians, hanging by a thread. In the Enclave's inner sanctum, Seren and her closest allies gathered around a luminous table. Nixian screens flickered to life, displaying genetic models and data streams. Eli stood at Seren's side as she addressed the group. We have one chance to avert war, she said. Eli's DNA, the adaptability, the resilience humanity offers, can be our proof. A peaceful solution exists, if the Council will see reason. Varric nodded. We have supporters in the Council. If we demonstrate what is possible, they must listen. Maela prepared the demonstration, careful hands extracting a sample and guiding the analysis. Holographic strands of DNA danced in the air, Nixian, flawless but stagnant. Human, wild and teeming with possibility. Eli watched the display, feeling the stakes like a physical force. Seren's hand found his, her grip steady, her eyes bright with hope and fear. We will show them, she whispered. We will make them see. As the Enclave prepared for the coming confrontation, Eli stood surrounded by allies he had never imagined, in a city of crystal beneath a sapphire sky. In the hush before the storm, he and Seren shared a look, a promise forged in risk and trust, their destinies bound to the fate of two worlds. The council chamber loomed before them, a cavernous space of crystal and shadow, its vastness designed to dwarf even the boldest soul. Light refracted from the high, faceted ceiling, casting shards of blue and silver across the polished floor. Counselors in iridescent robes watched from their thrones, faces carved from stone and pride. At the dais stood Solène, Seren's elder sister, her bearing icy and imperious. Solène's gaze swept over the assembly and landed on Seren. The exiled queen returns, with a human toy. Her words slice through the air, drawing murmurs from the council. Seren strode forward, regal in her ceremonial regalia, the blue gems at her collar pulsing with authority. "I bring evidence that we can survive without conquest," Seren said, her voice carrying the weight of exile and hope. She gestured for Eli to step beside her. Eli advanced, the eyes of a civilization fixed upon him. He carried the data crystal containing their solution, his pulse pounding as he connected it to the central console. A column of light erupted in the chamber's center, projecting the intertwined strands of Nixian and human DNA, patterns alive with possibility. He spoke, steady despite the tremor beneath his words. "The Nixian genome is flawless, but stagnant. Humanity's is wild, resilient. Combined, they can heal what tradition could not." A wave of astonishment rippled through the chamber. Holographic models spun in the air, revealing cellular regeneration, immunity, new growth where before there had been only decay. Solenne's expression soured. "Science cannot replace tradition," she declared, voice hard as crystal. "But it can save your people," Eli replied. "You stand on the brink of extinction. You have a choice: evolve or fade into memory." The council erupted into debate. Some shouted in outrage, others argued for hope. The air crackled with fear, pride, and the raw ache of survival. Chief Scientist Drayan rose, his robe shimmering with merit badges, his eyes clear with conviction. "I support the humans' findings. I have analyzed the samples. The solution is sound." Varric stepped forward, his voice resonant with authority. "I have undergone the treatment myself. My health has stabilized. The proof is irrefutable." For a moment, hope flickered across the counselors' faces, yet Solenne's fury blazed undiminished. "This is betrayal!" she cried, and in a single fluid motion, she drew a weapon from her sleeve, its blade humming with deadly energy. Eli barely registered the movement before Seren stepped in front of him, shielding him with her own body. The entire chamber froze, the threat of violence hanging heavy as a storm. Seren's voice cut through the silence, unwavering. "Our people choose a new path, Solenne. The age of conquest is over. I will not let you drag us back into darkness." Solenne's eyes narrowed. "You would turn us into something other." Varric moved with soldier's grace. In a blur, he disarmed Solenne, her weapon clattering across the polished floor. Guards tensed, then slowly lowered their arms as they registered the tide shifting. The public gallery, filled with silent observers, erupted in murmurs of approval. Solenne, breathless and defeated, stared in disbelief. She fell to her knees, robes pooling around her like a shadow. The eldest counselor, draped in midnight blue, rose with dignity. His voice echoed across the chamber. "May she guide us to renewal through unity." A swell of voices followed, counselors and onlookers alike bowing their heads in acknowledgement. The decision was final. Seren was restored as queen, her exile transformed into a triumph of vision over fear. The days that followed were a whirlwind, celebrations mingled with urgent preparation. Seren moved through the palace with newfound authority, issuing decrees, convening scientists, and opening dialogue with Earth's representatives. Eli watched her, admiration growing with each hour. One evening, on a balcony high above the crystalline spires of the capital, Eli and Seren stood side by side. The city sprawled beneath them, alive with the glow of progress. Human and Nixian scientists mingled in the courtyards below, laughter and debate filling the air. Seren's gaze traced the horizon. "You could return to Earth?" "Your mission is complete." Eli leaned on the balustrade, the night breeze tugging at his jacket. "Is it? I thought I was here to chart the unknown." She turned to him, eyes filled with warmth and the faintest glimmer of mischief. "And what have you discovered?" He smiled, slipping his fingers between hers. "That the greatest journeys are the ones that bring us together." They stood in silence, the weight of destiny momentarily set aside. Below, the city was alive with possibility, Nixians and humans working as one, barriers of fear and tradition falling away. Seren rested her head on his shoulder. "You've changed us, Eli Morgan." He shook his head. "We changed each other." She kissed him then, soft and sure, their embrace silhouetted against the sapphire sky. Above and below, the work of renewal continued, proof that the most profound discoveries were not of science or space, but of the heart. Together, they gazed into a future unwritten, fingers entwined, ready to shape a new world, side by side. Our story ends here. If you'd like to support us, you can use the Super Thanks button right under the video to leave a tip. It truly helps our team improve the quality of our work. We're grateful to each and every subscriber for being with us. Make sure you subscribe, press the like button, and tell us in the comments what stood out to you the most in this video. Your feedback means a lot to our team. You'll discover many more captivating stories on our channel. See you in the next one.